So in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about something that I think is pretty interesting, and it's called reverse culture shock. So it's basically the things that I find really different or shocking about returning to the US after living 7 years in Vietnam. I'm going to start off with the negatives because I think those are overall a little bit more shocking, and then I'm going to go into some of the positives as well of returning to the US after living so long abroad. For those of you that are interested, right now I'm in Riverside, California. This is where my mom and grandma live. I split my time in between here and then in the South Bay, Manhattan Beach and Redondo Beach, where my dad and stepmom live. So let's go ahead and get into it. The negatives of returning to the US from abroad. The first thing is the high price of everything. So I went to go get a haircut. I hope it looks dip chai, but I hope it looks handsome. It was $28, plus I gave them an $8 tip. That would be a $2 haircut in Vietnam, plus I usually tip another $2 as well. So there's, in general, really high cost for the haircut. Another example is it was like $2 for a single avocado at the grocery store. That would be like a 50-cent, 40-cent avocado at a Vietnamese grocery store. A bowl of pho here is like $15 at a Vietnamese restaurant. Of course, that's gonna be like $1.50 at a restaurant in Vietnam. So everything's just a little bit higher price, and obviously that just makes living a little bit less comfortable. You start to be concerned about, should I really get this or can I afford this? And in Vietnam, those things are just kind of like, of course I'm gonna get it, you know, no big deal. It's only 40 cents. Now it's like, I don't know, you know, your grocery bill ends up being a couple $100 here, where you struggle to spend like $60 at a Vietnamese grocery store. Another main difference is driving's really weird. So driving a car here in America, it just feels awkward. You start to get really used to like driving a motorcycle or a little scooter in Vietnam. That becomes your normal, especially after like 7 years. Then when you come back here and you get in a car and you're kind of flying at high speeds on the freeway, it's scary and it's just awkward. Sometimes you'll pull up to like an intersection where here in America people are gonna stop before they make a right turn, but in Vietnam it's not a guarantee. So you're always kind of like slowing down a little bit. Oh shoot, are they gonna stop? Just little things like that. But yeah, driving is definitely a little bit awkward as well. Speaking of driving here, so I was going to the post office to mail something, and I was trying to pull into a parking spot. It was really crowded, not very many spots. So I waited for this person to come out of their parking spot, waiting patiently, but I was in front of someone else who was trying to get out after I'd already been there waiting. So they started pulling out. I had no way to get back, so if they would have kept coming out, they would have hit me. So I honked to let them know, you know, like, you're gonna hit me. I got into the spot I was in. They waited there just to honk back super angrily and let me know that they were pissed off at me. I was like, come on, what, you know, what am I supposed to do? So, I mean, I know you'd probably think that the traffic being as crazy as it is in Saigon, that driving here wouldn't be as much of an issue, but surprisingly it is. So driving here, awkward. When I got into them across the street here, I don't know what this is. Anyways, when I got into the post office, I could understand everything everyone was saying. It was both English and Spanish. My Spanish was good enough to understand what people were saying around me, and then obviously English. And one of the women there was frustrated at another person because they were taking too long and asking too many questions. So basically she said, like, hey look, super angry, hey look, there's a lot of people waiting here, you're asking too many questions, yada yada. And it was just this overall feeling of anxiety, this just stressed out feeling of the whole situation that, I don't know, I mean, maybe it was the post office, it was busy, I get it. People just want to get out of there. But at the same time, it was like, it was almost like when I don't understand everything in Vietnamese, there's a sense of bliss in that ignorance. And being able to understand everything that's going on around me, I'm able to understand that frustration. I'm able to pick up on everything around me, almost like I can eavesdrop on every single conversation. And there's a little bit of stress and anxiety that comes with that. It's a very hard thing to explain, but I definitely thought that was worth mentioning as well. And if I'm being honest, there's sort of a stress and anxiety that goes into just a lot of the tasks here. And I'm not sure, maybe that's related to the high price of things. Maybe it's related to a general attitude of people here in the country. But there definitely does seem to be a higher stress level. Another big thing too about leaving what now feels like my home. Saigon really feels more like my hometown than Los Angeles or Southern California does. Riverside was never really my home. I would come out here every other weekend to like visit my grandparents, visit mom, whatnot. But there's still like a hometown sort of feeling to Riverside as well for me. Anyways, Saigon definitely feels like my hometown now. And part of like what's weird about that is I really obviously miss my girlfriend and really miss my friends there, because those are my close friends now. And there's sort of like a disconnected feeling to my friends and peers out here. My friends and peers out here are getting married, they're having families. I'm 34, I'm traveling, I'm doing things a little bit differently with my life. And there just seems to be a bit of like I guess I'm missing out on some things, or I feel just a little bit disconnected, where I feel very much like close to my friends in Saigon. Those are my people now. Going out and like meeting new people around here seems a little bit more strained. When you go out and you see like an expat or a foreigner in Vietnam, there's sort of like an instant connection, like, oh, we're both out here, we're both journeying around the world. We can easily relate about that and connect on that. People here, it's like, why are you talking to me? You know, what's the point of this interaction type thing? I don't really want to emphasize that too much, because I think to a large degree that's case by case. And if you're generally a personable person or you have an outgoing personality, that's not so much of an issue. But it does feel a little bit easier to make friends and be social in Vietnam. The thing I'll mention too on the negatives is that there's a last call here in California. So 2 a.m. if you're going out to a bar or you want beer or whatever, 2 a.m. is the cutoff. That doesn't exist in Saigon. You can get beer 24/7, alcohol 24/7, and there's always somewhere to go out if you want to party. That's becoming less of an issue for me as I get older, because I'm just less prone to like staying out for really late nights, but still something I thought was worthy of mentioning. Another thing that's worthy of mentioning, if you guys are liking this video, go ahead and leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. It really does help out the channel, and I really do appreciate it. Another thing I wanted to point out, no bidets here. No bum gun, just this toilet paper. So when I'm over here, I'm not actually going right now, but when I'm here, I'm looking for the bum gun. It ain't here. And to be honest with you, it feels a little bit cleaner using a bum gun versus just using toilet paper. Another sort of negative in terms of the reverse culture shock. I'll show you one more thing. I'm in the house. Yeah, shoes in the house. Shoes in the house. Another like cleanliness thing. Just like the bidet being a little more clean for your body. Shoes in the house, a little bit less clean for the house. Those are two things that you definitely get used to when you're living in Asia. Kicking those shoes off when you get in the house, and then using the bum gun on your butthole. And I will say something too, change of location, by the way. I'm in Manhattan Beach. That's where my dad lives. I will say, overall, this is a very safe neighborhood. But in terms of like the general feeling of safety overall here in America, I do think it's a little bit lower. I don't know, I can't really pinpoint exactly where that's coming from. There's an overall sense of it's a little bit more dangerous here. I'm not like super paranoid. I'm not like, oh my God, something bad's gonna happen to me at all times. Strangers and people in Vietnam, they seem to just be a little bit more like friendly. Everything feels just a little bit safer. I don't know. It's hard for me to pinpoint that exactly, and it's almost kind of sad to admit that, because I don't want America to feel like this place that's, I don't know, unsafe. And it's not really. Generally very safe, you're fine, no problem. But if I have to be honest, there's a smidge of like, this is a little bit sketchy. But yeah, anyways, those are the negatives in terms of the reverse culture shock. All right, so that was a lot of negatives. Let's get to some of the positives. Overall, it is cleaner, generally more organized here. Like, you just look at the streets here. You don't see like garbage on the side of the street. Everything's kind of more neat and well put together, which is, I think, what draws a lot of people who aren't from the US. They see pictures of it and they see that and they're like, wow, that looks really nice. And superficially, that is sort of nice. Going to the grocery store, everything's nice and neat. You can find everything easily. It's all in English. One of my big things at the grocery store is I can get like any Mexican food I want. Tortillas, enchilada sauces, salsas. Even I found like sopes, which are like little corn cakes. For the type of food I like and that I grew up with, it's much easier to find all that here in America. But the main positive feeling, and really the whole purpose of coming back to America for this visit, is being able to see my family, being able to spend really special moments with my family that take on like a more special and more significant sort of feeling, because they're so infrequent. And I know that I have to really like savor each moment and cherish each moment, because I don't know if it's gonna be the last moment. You just, when you're gone for so long and you're on the other side of the world, it's not that easy to just hop on like a 15-hour plane and like it's like a 24-hour trip to get here. So then when you see friends from back here, your peers from back here, almost doing anything back here, it takes on like an extra special significance. And there's something kind of beautiful about that, and something definitely worth noting about that, where everything feels just a little bit more special because you're not sure how often you're going to be able to do it, so you don't really take it for granted like you would if you were like living here. So one thing I do want to say is that I'm just super grateful to spend the time that I'm spending back here, if for nothing else, really for those moments of seeing and spending quality time with my dad, my mom, my grandma, my aunts, uncles, cousins, being able to soak in moments of my hometown in Redondo Beach, spend time in Manhattan Beach with my dad, come out here to Riverside where I spent a lot of time growing up as a kid. Being able to soak in those moments just feels really good. It feels really special, and it's definitely not something just to be taken for granted. And I'm really happy that I was able to have the opportunity to do this. For those of you who are interested, I know that that's been a kind of a common question in my last video especially. I will be returning to Vietnam. This is just a visit. I'll be coming back in early May. So I'll be out here. I'll be doing some videos out here, but mainly I want to spend the time to like really take in those moments with family and not stress so much about pumping out a ton of content. But in a lot of ways, it's sort of like, I don't know, I feel like I miss Vietnam a lot being back here in America. I almost feel like Brooks in the Shawshank Redemption, where he's like, he gets his freedom. I mean, this is a weird analogy or a weird comparison, but I almost feel like where he comes out of Shawshank and he's like, oh, I wish they'd just send me back so I could see my friends. I'm kind of looking forward to coming back to Vietnam so that I can see my friends and my people, and also where it just feels more of like an adventure, and going out and vlogging just seems way more like, all right, yes, there's a really cool and interesting thing to do. Here's some really good street food I can go try. So being here sort of feels like this energy is being pent up, and I'm like really eager to get back out there and film like a lot more stuff in Vietnam. So that's exciting. But yeah, I mean, definitely reverse culture shock is a thing. I would say it's even a stranger feeling than the sort of culture shock or the differences that I experienced when I moved from America to Vietnam. And I think a lot of that has to do with how happy I am living in Vietnam, and how I left America to go live in Vietnam, and when I come back here, it's more like leaving what I feel like is now my hometown, and where I'm happy to come back here. But nonetheless, it is an important thing to do, and it's something that I definitely do cherish in certain ways. One more thing I got to mention, this would be more on the positive side of things. I'm wearing a sweater and I'm comfortable. It's a temperate climate. It's definitely different than that humid, basically tropical climate you're getting in Saigon. I sort of like a little bit colder weather. So for me, I'm gonna notch that in the positive section of reverse culture shock. I'm sure my experience is different than everyone else. Some of you have visited Vietnam and come back to America, or lived in Vietnam and come back to America, or even just spent time in another country and come back to America or your other home country, and you've noticed different sorts of reverse culture shock. I'm really interested to hear what you've experienced and the unique sorts of things that are different to you, better or worse, about being abroad and then coming back. Definitely interested in your perspective and what sorts of things that you think would be shocking after a return to your home country after being abroad for so long. But anyways, guys, I really hope you liked that video. If you did like the video, click the like button, subscribe to the channel to support the growth, and leave any comments you have. I'm really happy to hear from y'all. And I'll see y'all in the next vlog. Peace.